Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Business 110. Today, inshallah, we're going to start chapter number 6, which is the first chapter in part number 3 of this book. Title of chapter number 6 is the nature of management. Okay, so basically, hopefully by the end of this chapter, we will be able to define what is management is, explaining its role, why it's important in achieving the organizational objectives. Also, we will look at the different functions of management. We will be looking at the different levels of management and also what is each level requirements is, specifying the skills manager need in order to be a successful manager. Okay, so this is basically some of the objectives of this chapter. Let's start first by defining what is management is all about. We all know that management is very important at all levels and in all types of organizations, whether you are a small business, whether you are a company, whether you are a partnership. It is very important that you should have good management. And if you recall in chapter number 1, when we say that one of the important keys for success and for the business to make profit is to have good managerial skills. So accordingly, management is one of the important factors for the business to be a successful one. You need to know that management is the process itself, while managers are the individuals who actually do the work of the management process. So management is what? It's a process designed to what? To achieve the organizational objectives and goals. How? By using the resources of the organizations, human resources, financial resources, any other tangible and intangible resources that is required. You have to use it effectively and efficiently in a changing environment. As we always say, you are not alone. You are surrounded by an external environment and by some factors that might change all of a sudden. So you have to be able to respond to these changes if happened. So what is the difference between being effective and being efficient? If you manage to reach your goals, that means you're being effective. So if you reach your intended result or your intended objectives, that means you are being effective. And if you reach or accomplish these goals using very minimum resources, less resources, that means you're being efficient. This is the difference between being effective and being efficient. So management is the process. Then who carries this process? It's managers. It's the individual themselves. So managers are the people or the individuals in the organization who spend most of their time making decisions, making planning, and other functions also. Okay, so they are responsible for using the resources of the organization very effectively and efficiently. Also, managers are responsible for planning process, for organizing, for staffing, for directing, for controlling process, okay? Controlling what? The different activities in order to reach the objectives of the organizations. This is basically some of the examples of what managers actually do. Now we will be highlighting in more detail in a while and later in this chapter about all of those different functions of managers and what exactly each function means. Okay, we will give you examples. And as I said, management is so necessary and so important at all levels. Whether you are a private sector, you are a governmental sector, whatever type of sector you are, you have to have good management. Okay, so this is basically some introduction about what management is and what is the importance of managers within the organization. So why management is important? Management is very important at all levels. Number one, managers are responsible for acquiring or finding out the needed resources and to be able to use these resources effectively, as we just mentioned a while ago, in order to reach the organizational objectives. Okay, because also they're responsible for turning the input of the organization to output. That is, they have to use the resources, either human resources, financial resources, the equipment, the raw material, any type of resources that is needed while we are figuring out the resources in our input of the organization, and then they have to make the necessary processes or operations to turn it into final goods or services اللي هو basically it's the output of the organization. Okay, also management is important because managers are responsible for recruiting the right employees. Okay, they have to recruit and select the correct employees with the right skills to reach the organizational or to attain the organizational objectives. Okay, this is one of the main responsibilities of management. Managers also are responsible for the staffing process. So what is staffing? Basically, the staffing process is trying to hire the people, okay, who will carry out the work of the organization, the whole employees basically, okay? So you have to determine what kind of skills is needed for each job so that they can actually carry out the job and they can be very productive. And also, the management is also responsible for the downsizing process. So what is downsizing process? Basically, sometimes the organization cannot afford to have so many number of employees. So basically, they have to do something called downsizing or right. Sometimes we call it right sizing, okay, or doing some sort of trimming, okay. So sometimes what they do is that they lay off some of the employee. Okay, they have to fire some of the employees because maybe the business is not doing well, the business is not being so profitable. Okay, so they have to cut down in certain lines of products, or they have to close some of the branches that they have opened already. So how we do so? We can do so through downsizing. Sometimes people might ask, who will do the work? Sometimes they have to do outsourcing. They have to give some of the main functions, like for example, they have to rely on a legal firm to do any kind of legal issues, or accounting firm who's more expertise in this area to do the accounting function, or marketing and so on, or advertising, whatever. Okay, so basically part of the management role is to do the staffing, or hiring of employees, and sometimes they should also do the downsizing process. Also, management is important because they are responsible for finding out the right supplier, acquiring and finding out suppliers. Suppliers are people who's going to help in providing us with the raw material, for example, the equipment, the computers, whatever is needed for the business to run out. Okay, so this is the responsibility of the management to find out what suppliers are needed, what raw materials is needed. Why? Because I want to make sure that the products are made available to the customers. I don't want to come by the end of the month and tell the customers, well, I'm sorry, I cannot deliver on time because the supplier did not deliver the raw material, and so on. It is your responsibility as a manager to make sure that you have the right suppliers who will be delivering on time, and who will also be so cooperative with you in order for you to meet the scheduling and to be able to reach the schedules and to deliver the products and the services to the customers on time. Also, in global markets, firms enlist hundreds of diversity of suppliers. Yes, here if you talk to small businesses usually are dealing with very small number of suppliers. But if we're talking with big businesses like Walmart and other big names, they deal with so many numbers of suppliers. Yani if you just take an example of small supermarket here, if you look at Tamimi or Uthaim or Danube or whatever type of a business around us, you can see that this place has so many types of products. It's not one supplier. We have one supplier who's delivering the meat, one who's delivering the fishery, one is doing the poultry, and other things. Okay, so they are dealing with a large number of suppliers. Okay, this is as for why management important in terms of acquiring suppliers. Also, one of the main job for management is to find out the financial resources or the funding for the business. Okay, because why do you need money? Why do you need funding? Because you want to be able to pay for the essential activities, for the very important activities. You want to be able to pay for your suppliers, to pay for your electricity, for your phone bills, for your rent, for salaries for the employees. So it is very important that you have the financial resources needed to cover up for all of these different types of activities. These are costs, and you have to be ready to fulfill it. Also, owners, shareholders, banks, and other financial institutions, as we said last time, these are the different means or ways or methods where you can find or where you can acquire your financial resources. Okay, if you recall last time, we said we can either do a debit or a credit type of accounting. Okay, so this is basically why management is important. Okay, طيب. Let's move on and let's start discussing the different management functions as we discussed it earlier while we were defining management and what exactly they do. Management functions include the planning process, organizing, directing, and controlling. We will just take a brief definition now and then we will take each function and discuss it in more details. Basically, management is responsible for planning activities. Why? To be able to achieve the organizational objectives. Also, they're responsible for organizing the resources and activities. Again, to achieve organizational objectives. Directing whom? They are responsible for directing employees' activities, okay? Again, to achieve the organizational objectives. Controlling is one of the main functions. It's very important that you have to make sure that you do the necessary evaluation to make sure that you will be able to achieve your objectives. Yani during planning, which is the first function, you are setting up your objectives and your goals, and then you start operating. But you need to always evaluate to see whether you will be able to achieve those objectives while doing these operations and processes, while you actually implementing your plans and so on. Okay, so controlling is again very important process. We have to make sure that we are on course, that we are actually will be able to achieve the organizational objectives. Okay, let's move on and let's take each function and discuss it in more details. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, and I said that the first function that we are discussing here is the planning. Planning basically is what? You're trying to set up your yardsticks, you're trying to set up your objectives, deciding exactly how you're gonna meet these objectives, how you're gonna accomplish these objectives, okay? And this is the first function of management, okay? So basically planning is the process of determining what objectives you have and how you're gonna achieve these objectives. Right. You need to know that the planning process includes several things. While doing planning, you have to think about something we call it the mission statement. Here you're setting up the fundamental or the purpose or the basic philosophy of the business, why the business exists. It's a declaration of the organization's fundamentals or purpose and philosophy, okay, why the business exists. So you have to really answer several questions while you're setting up your mission statement. You have to think about what business are we in? What type of a business? Are we a coffee shop? Are we a retail business? Are we in the food sector? Whatever. So you have to answer these questions, okay? Good mission statement also should be very clear, it should be very concise and precise, okay? It should explain why the business exists. It should, as we said, answer the following questions: who we are, who's our customer is. You have to identify your customer even in your mission statement. Also, the basic or the beliefs of the customer, the ethics, the values of your business. What are our core competencies? What are you good at? What is making you different than the other? What gave you a competitive advantage over the others? What are our responsibilities as a business with respect to being a good steward of environmental, financial, and human resources? You have to be able to identify all of these issues and answer all of these questions at this mission statement. Okay, so these are some of the issues that you really have to focus on, and you have to make sure that you'll be able to answer all of these questions while setting your mission statement. So mission statement, it comes first. Okay, it's a statement of an organizational fundamental purpose and basic philosophy. Also, it is very important that you identify your goals. Okay, at the end of the day, what exactly you want to achieve. Okay, so you have to be able to identify your goals. Okay, these are the results that the company is trying to achieve. Goals are very, very broad. Okay, on the other hand, we have something else that you have to also look at, and you have to identify is your objectives, or are your objectives. Objectives are more measurable statements on common issues such as profits, competitive advantage, efficiency, and growth, and so on. So if you look at objectives, objectives are more narrow and more specific type. Okay, while goals are more broad, they're more general. Okay, goals usually they focus on the whole, while the objectives, they're more looking at the very details and very parts and chunks and pieces and so on. Okay, also the goals are more of a long-term types of goals. Objectives are more short-term. يعني let me give you this example. Let's say, for example, in this class, you as a student, you might say that I want to achieve a success in the field of business, مثلا marketing or systems or whatever. This is your goal. But if you see, I want to complete this course by the end of this month and get an A or B مثلا, this is your objective. This is a more short-term type of objective. Okay, so basically, this is basically what the difference between your goals and your objectives. Also, you need to know that plans specify what should be done by whom, where, when, and how. So you have to identify what are you going to do, who should do it, how you will do it, where are you going to do it, when are you going to do it. All of these questions needs to be answered and needs to be very specific while you're doing your planning process. It's worth mentioning here, I would like to share with you something here. I wish that you can get the chance to go and look at AOU mission statement. Mission statement and vision statement are posted on AOU main website. Mission statement, for example, look at this. Mission statement for AOU is to develop and disseminate knowledge and build expertise according to international quality standards, without time or geographical barriers, for the sake of contributing and preparing manpower for development needs and to build science and knowledge society in the Arab countries. So here we're answering several questions. You're answering who we are, who's your customer, how you're going, what kind of ethics you have, what kind of a message you're trying to pursue, and so on. So basically, this is what the mission statement for AOU. So look at it if you have a chance in AOU main website. For the planning process, or as the main functions of management, you need to know that we have three types of planning. First, we have the strategical type of planning. Strategic type of planning is a long-term range planning. Okay, here you're setting up the overall strategy of the company or the organization. Okay, and how you're going to fulfill or reach the mission statement that we already mentioned just while you're doing the planning process. Planning is a long-term planning. It's usually 1 year and more than that, or longer than that. So can we take examples for strategical type of planning? If you look at, if the business or the company is trying to add new products, adding a new product doesn't come overnight. Adding a new product requires strategical planning. It requires long-term planning. So you have to plan it ahead. If the company is trying to purchase another company, okay, acquire another company, or open a new branch, or expand its activities, or adding a new line of products, or sometime you want to sell some of your unprofitable segments or products, or closing one branch, for example, that's not unprofitable at all. Sometimes business might think about issuing stock. Remember last week or the previous weeks we talk about when we talk about private companies, and we said that private companies sometimes they go IPO, that is, they go initial public offering by selling the stock, the company's stock in the public market for the first time. So we call it IPO. So if the company is deciding to issue stock, or sometimes even if it's a public company and they want to reissue more stocks, okay, again, such kind of decision you cannot take on the short term. It's a long-term planning. It's a more strategical type of planning. If the business want to expand its activities and they want to enter international markets, again, this is a more strategical type of planning that requires long-term planning. Okay, so this is basically what we call it, a strategical plan that must take into account the capabilities of the business, the resources that are available, the changing environmental factor that might affect such kind of planning and such kind of decision, the organizational objectives. Okay, you have to put in mind all of these issues while you're doing your strategical planning. Okay, so this is the first type of plans, اللي هو strategical type of planning, and as I said, this is a long-term type of planning that you have to really consider, and it will take you time to take the correct decision to fulfill your mission statement. The second type of planning, we have something called the tactical type of planning. طيب, what is tactical planning? Basically, tactical planning is a little bit shorter time of plan, shorter range. يعني. It's a planning that is done in 1 year or less. Okay, these tactical plans are designed to implement the activities and the objectives that were set up by these strategical planners in the previous slide that we discussed about strategical planning. Those people, they actually do the implementations of the different activities and the different objectives that are stated by the strategical planners. Okay, so this is a little bit short time of planning, and it's, as I said, it's 1 year or less. This type of planning keeps the firm on course established in the strategic plan, so it just makes sure that the objectives and the operation that with the plans that they were established at the previous stage in the strategic planning are really actually going on and actually is in course of action. You need to know that because we are living in an ever-changing market, and market is always changing, so demanding, and it's always changing its needs and its wants. Okay, so you should always keep these tactical plans, and you have to review it, and you have to keep it updated to make sure that you will really actually meet the needs and the wants of your customer, because they always have some changing some changing needs and some changing wants. Okay, so you have to always focus on the company's overall strategy and make sure that you are meeting the needs and the wants of the people, because you are dealing with different types of changing environmental factors that you have to be able to meet. The third type of planning, we have the operational type of planning. An operational type of planning, it's a shorter type, very short plans actually. Okay, they specify the actions that each individual within the organizations or different groups or departments they have to accomplish in order to achieve whatever is set within the tactical plans. And if you manage to reach the tactical plans, that means you will also reach the strategical plans. You will accomplish your strategic plans ultimately. Okay, so basically this is the third type, اللي هو operational type of plan. Such kind of plan apply to details in executing the different activities on a daily basis in very quickly. Okay, so basically these are operational plans. Okay, they may also specify the scheduling of different activities, who's responsible for what, the hiring process, the training that is needed for employees, okay, how we're going to obtain merchandise, okay, different activities that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is required by the operational planners, okay? So you have to look at operational planning as one of the important issues. Why? Because it really deals with the short term, the more day-to-day basis of activities that is going on within the business, okay? This is as for operational plans. There are other planning that we did not mention here. We have, for example, you have to look at crisis management, contingency planning. All of us, we deal with some environmental issues that might happen that is out of our hand, and we have to be ready for it. We have to have some sort of courses of actions, okay, to solve any kind of issue that might arise that is out of our control. That, for example, like the pandemic that we went through in the previous months and we're still going through, and how businesses reacted to such kind of factor that is out of our control. We just have to be ready for to deal with it. Okay, so they should have some sort of crisis management as well. They have to plan it ahead. This is as for the first function, which is planning. Second, we have the second type of functions, which is organizing. Managers, they spend their time in structuring resources and different activities, again, to accomplish or to achieve the different objectives of the organization in an efficient and effective manner or way. Okay, this is what we mean basically by organizing. Okay, so basically, managers, they need to organize by reviewing, for example, the plans, determining what kind of activities are necessary to implement them. Okay, they have to divide the work between the employees and between the different units or departments or groups or units. Okay, so this is the responsibility of managers, is to do the organizing of the different activities within the business to make sure that we will achieve or accomplish the objectives of the organization in an efficient and in an effective way. Organizing does what? Organizing helps in creating synergy. It helps in encouraging combined efforts between different levels of employees and groups and departments and so on. Okay, so it will create synergy between people and departments and units. It will also establish the line of authority. When you organize the work, when you tell everyone exactly what's their role and what's their job and how much responsibility they have, that means you're establishing the authority, establishing exactly who's who within this organization and how much responsibility and authority each person has, and who report to whom, and who's responsible about whom, and so on. Okay, so this is again one of the importance of organizing work and an organizing function. Also, when you organize the work and the activities within the business, it will improve communication. You can easily communicate between different lines, between different departments. So here you're speeding up the whole process. I know exactly to whom, who's the head of this department, so I can easily communicate with him. I can email them. I can talk to them. I can find ways of how we communicate, whether by phones, by emails, by whatever. Okay, so it will improve communication when you actually allocate different jobs and different responsibilities and authorities to specific people. Okay, so you will improve the communication. Also, it will help avoiding duplication of resources. When everybody knows exactly how much authority they have over certain things and over certain resources, everybody knows exactly who can make the order, who can acquire certain things or certain resources. By doing so, خلاص, you will put everything in order. We will not duplicate the resources. We don't want to do double the work. X manager will make an order and Y manager will make the same order. No, we don't want to do these issues. We don't want to get into these problems. So through organizing, you will avoid such kind of a duplication of these resources and the use of these resources actually. While organizing the activities within the business and the employees, and also it will also improve competitiveness by speeding up the decision-making process. If everything is organized, it will and the different activities is well organized. That means you will boost your productivity, and if you boost your productivity, that means it will also contribute to the decision-making process. When everybody know exactly where they fit and how activities should be done within the business, then you will help in making the decision much easier and much faster. And accordingly, you're gaining competitive edge. You're becoming better than the others. Okay, all of these are different advantages of using organizing function. Okay, this is basically the second type of function that we're discussing here today. The third function is directing. You want to direct whom? You want to direct your employees. So how do I direct employees? You direct employees by keeping them motivated, by leading them. Okay, because we're relying on those employees and our productivity. We're relying on them for our profitability. If the employees are happy and satisfied and motivated, they will contribute to the success of the business. So directing basically is motivating and leading employees to achieve the organizational objectives, and this is very important thing. So how can I direct the employees? Number one, you have to keep them informed. You have to tell employees what is expected from them, what they should do, when they should do it, and how they should do it. Give them deadlines, give them targets, give them objectives and goals, okay? And also encourage them so that they can produce more. Encourage them to do their work, okay? This is how you direct your employees. Telling employees what to do, when to do it, okay? Giving them deadlines, encouraging them to do their work. This is one thing. Also very important for management is to determine and administer the rewarding system. لازم يكون في rewarding system in the organization, rewarding and punishment system, of course, okay? Those who are doing good, we should give them rewards. And we have to put in mind that it's not always necessary, and it's not always easy, and it's not always available to give monetary incentives, okay? You need to know that sometimes just by recognizing the employee work, by giving them respect and recognition and thank you letters and appreciating their efforts and so on, this is more important. These are good motivator actually to employees, okay? So providing incentives sometimes is a bit difficult, like giving recognition, appreciation, and respect are the best motivators to employees. One of the main things also that how you can motivate your employees is through involvement, okay? You have to involve your employee. Once they feel that they are part of this organization, that you're listening to them, that you're asking them to contribute ideas and solutions and so on, this is a good motivator to your employees, okay? So again, this is one of the issues that really motivate employees. So ask workers to contribute ideas for reducing costs, for example. If you find out that we're facing problem with cost, ask them to tell us solutions, give us ideas how we can cut these costs down, how we can make equipment more efficient. That is by producing more products using less resources. This is how we define how being efficient is. Improving customer service and improving customer satisfaction. How? Let them contribute by giving ideas. how we can develop new products, ways and ideas and so on. Here you're involving your employees. They will feel that they are part of this organization. They will feel that they are owners of this organization, okay? So again, all of these are different ways of motivating and leading your employees. And this is part of your directing function. Also, as I said, and as we mentioned in the beginning when we were discussing about the different functions of management, controlling is very, very important. Because during your planning process, you're setting up your goals and your objectives, and then you start operating. So you do need some sort of controlling process to measure your performance, to see how successful you are in reaching your objectives. So controlling basically is the process of evaluating and correcting activities to keep the organization on course, keep it moving toward achieving the organizational objectives. So during the controlling process here, you're trying to measure the performance of the organization, measuring your activities, comparing what actually is going on with your objectives, because as I said, you set up your goals and objectives, these are your measures, and these are your yardsticks, and then you start performing. Then you have to go back and compare your performance with the measures. Why you do so? Trying to identify any kind of differences between your objective and your process and your performance. If there is any kind of differences or any kind of deviations from the standards or from the measures, you need to put your hands on these deviations and these differences. And what caused these? What are the causes of these deviations? Why? Because you want to find solutions for it. You want to take corrective actions if necessary. So basically, the controlling process includes, as I said, measuring your performance, number one, comparing performance with your standard, identify any kind of differences or deviations, and then finding out the causes or what caused this to happen, this deviation to happen, and then take any kind of courses of actions or corrective actions to correct such kind of deviations if it happens. So if the outcomes of your plans do not meet your expectations, again, you have to do something, okay? You have to maybe do a revision of your plans, do something, do a corrective action. The basic idea here is to ensure that operations meet the requirements and that the satisfaction of the objectives or reaching or accomplishing the objective that you set in the beginning. For example, let's take you as a student here. Sorry. If you did not perform as well as you مثلا for example you set up an objective for yourself and you want to do an A or a B in this course, and you started taking activities and you started studying and taking exam and doing homeworks and so on, and you find out that you did not actually meet, you cannot meet that objective اللي هو getting an A, that means there is a problem here. That means you have to take corrective action. Like what? Maybe you have to increase your studying hours of studying. Maybe you have to actually go and read from the book more and more, do more efforts, spend more time with your books and with your PowerPoint presentations and so on. So here you're taking a corrective action. This is the controlling process. Okay? This is what we mean by controlling. And controlling, as I said, it's one of the main functions, very important to ensure that the business is going to reach its requirements to reach the objectives and to be a successful one. Okay? This is the last functions of management. Okay, let's go now and let's look at the different levels of management. We do have different levels, as you can see in this pyramid here. We have 3 levels of management. We have the top management, we have the middle management, and we also have the first line of management. Let's take each one and let's discuss it in a little bit more details. When I say top management, that means that this is the higher management. Those are people who are responsible for setting up the strategical planning of the organizations, the mission, the vision, the objectives of the organizations, and the goals, and so on. These are the top executives of the company, the president, the rector, the CEOs, the CFOs, CEOs, and so on, okay? Those are the top management of the organization. For example, they say that CEO is one of the example. If you remember last time we talked about BODs, Board of Directors, okay? And we said that there's a CEO. CEO is the Chief Executive Officer. CFO is the Chief Financial Officer. COO is the Chief Operational Officer. Those are representative of the top management of the organization. Those are responsible for the strategical planning. Okay? In publicly owned corporations, CEO also has a boss. He's bossed by the board of directors. And we need to know that it is very important to make sure that the compensation of CEOs and different directors is to keep pay in line with performance. You do good, you get this much. You do less, you get this much. So compensations committees work directors and CEOs to keep pay in line with performance. This is very, very important issue, and it needs to be taken into consideration. And as I said, that we have different examples like the governor, the president, the high management, and so on, chancellor, and those are different examples of top management. One of the interesting things that you have here in your book and you need to take a look at is table 6.1. Table 6.1, they give you a list of different CEOs of different companies like Oracle, Walt Disney, American Express, Apple, Coca-Cola, Morgan Stanley, HP, Hewlett Packard, IBM, Amazon, and Berkshire Hathaway, and so on. They give you a list of these companies and the names of their CEOs and the compensation that they get. Go have a look at it. It's really worth looking at it just to see. Of course, if the company is very successful one, then they deserve such kind of this much money. Okay, so if you have time, look at page 184, table 6.1, highest paid CEOs. And just to get an example and to get acquainted to how the real life really goes. This is as for top management. The second type of managers are the middle managers. Middle managers are responsible for the tactical planning. Remember when we said that we have different types of planning, strategical and then tactical? And we just a while ago we said strategical plans are responsibility of the top management. So the middle managements are responsible for the tactical planning, okay, which implementation of the general guidelines that are established by the top management. This is the responsibility of middle management. Those people are more focused than the top management. They are involved more in the specific operation of the organization. They spend more time organizing than other managers. This is middle management. Examples of middle management, we can say division manager, department manager, plant manager. All of these are different examples of middle management. They mentioned here, it's worth mentioning actually, you know, that the ranks of middle management have been shrinking as more companies downsizing to be more productive. And I think just a while ago we talked about in the beginning about staffing and downsizing. And basically here and for this middle management, you're going to shrink the middle management layer by removing the middle management level to have a more short-term line of authority, okay? And to make decision-making process much faster and much easier. And if you do so, you become more productive. And if you're becoming more productive, this means you're becoming more profitable, and you will gain more competitive edge. This is as for middle management. To the third type of management, that is the first line of managers. Basically, those people who are dealing with the day-to-day basis with workers. They are the supervisors who operate on a daily basis. Okay, they follow up with employees and workers to see how things actually going. Okay, so first line manager supervise both workers and the daily operations of the organization. They are responsible for implementing the tactical plans that were set by whom? By the middle management. Okay, so they're responsible for implementing the plans that were established and set by middle management and directing workers on a daily basis. You know, they direct the daily performance of the workers and the employees. Those first line managers, they spend most of their time directing and controlling employees. Examples of such kind of first line managers can be foremen, supervisors, office service managers, and so on. Okay, these are just different examples of who they are. Okay, and as I said, they spend most of their time in directing and controlling process of the different activities on a daily basis. What do managers do? Managers, they have different roles that they do. Here we're dividing it into three categories. Managers, they have a decisional role, they have an informational role, also they have an interpersonal role. Let's look at the difference between these different types of roles. Under decisional role, they play as an entrepreneur, they are a disturbance handler, they are a resource allocator, and also they are a negotiator. What does that mean? Let's look at it. Basically, managers are considered as entrepreneur because they use organizational resources to develop goods and services. They take decisions to expand, for example, any kind of activities internationally to obtain new customers, of course. So they take a lot of decisions. These decisions, just like being an entrepreneur. Remember last week we discussed about who are entrepreneurs, the risk takers. Okay, they take a lot of decisions. They know that these decisions might be risky, but they take it. So again, managers are the same thing. They are in the same place. They make a lot of decisions, so they consider to be entrepreneurs because they take decisions about sometimes risky issues. Also, managers are disturbance handlers. They take decisions and they make corrective actions to deal with any problems, an unexpected problem that might arise. Okay, if they face any kind of issues, if the organization or the company face problems from external environment, they are the ones who has to deal with it. They are the ones to deal with crisis, finding out solutions for these issues. So we call them disturbance handler. Also, the role of the managers is to be a resource allocator. They are responsible to finding out the budgets, the funding, the employees. Okay, so they set budgets and salaries. Okay, of different levels of the organization actually. So they have to allocate resources at all levels of the organization. Also, under decisional role, the manager is working as a negotiator. They negotiate with different people, with different stakeholders. For example, they negotiate with suppliers, with distributors, with the government, with the labor unions, and so on. So they also negotiate different types of agreements about quality, about prices, about technical issues. These are all responsibility of the managers being a decisional role. Okay, this is the first type actually of the managerial role, which is the decisional role. If you look at the informational role, manager, they work as a monitor, as a disseminator, and also as a spokesperson. طيب how? As a monitor, in manager, they evaluate the performance of managers in different functions. They also take the necessary corrective actions, as we said earlier, okay, to improve the performance of those different levels of employees, ولا activities, ولا functions, ولا whatever, okay. They also look after a change, if any kind of a change is happening, okay, from the external environment, and they have to take any kind of changes or corrective actions if needed, okay. So they monitor, they do the controlling process all the time. Also, managers, they work as a disseminator. The disseminator means what? They inform employees about certain things, about any kind of changes, sending emails to inform people about any kind of issues that's going on, whether at the internal or the external level. So they disseminate information, they communicate to employees about different issues, about the vision, about the mission, about the objectives of the organization. This is, we call it disseminator. Also, managers, they work as a spokesperson. That is what? For example, if the company is to launch an advertising campaign, managers are the ones who will, or مثلا promote for new products or whatever. They are responsible for giving the speech about this new introducing of a new product, or telling the local community, the local society about whatever new things that the company is having. So they play a role as a spokesperson. They represent the company as a spokesperson. And we see here different types of ministers. They have a spokesperson. The White House has a spokesperson who speaks on behalf of that organization or that business. Also, manager, they have a very important role, that is a more interpersonal role. Under interpersonal role, and managers, they work as a figurehead, they are leaders, and they are Bayesian as well. Figurehead, they are the representative of the company, okay? They are the main person of the company. They outline the future goals to the employees of the company. So they are the representative main person of the company. They state the organizational ethics and guidelines and principles and so on. This is being a figurehead. People will point to him and say, this is the president, this is the prince, this is the king, this is the director. They are the figurehead of the company. They are also leaders. They have to be a good example for the employee to follow. They have to be a role model for the employees, for the others, to give them directing commands and give them orders to the subordinates, to the other employees. They make decisions concerning the use of human and technical resources. They mobilize employee support for specific organizational goals and so on. So they are leaders, holding employees hand in hand. Also, they work as a Bayesian. they coordinate different activities, coordinate the work of managers with different departments within the organization. Also, they establish alliances with between different organizations to share resources to produce new goods and services. So they really have a lot of coordination work that they do being a manager. These are basically the main managerial roles. As you can see, they play a decisional, informational, and interpersonal role. And you have to refer to table 6.4, I believe in page 187, to get a real picture or get more information about what we mean about each role and each sub-role. As you can see, each role here has a sub-role that you need to look at and you need to really be aware of. Okay. There are certain skills that is needed or very importantly needed by managers at different levels. One of these expertise that is needed is the technical expertise. These are the special knowledge that is needed, for example, to train employees so that they can do their job right. Okay. They need to know about particular program, about particular software, about a particular equipment and how you can actually run this equipment and how to operate a certain machine and so on. This is basically some kind of technical expertise that is needed by a particular level of management so that the business can move on, the operation can continue. Such kind of technical expertise is needed by people, obviously, who are in daily dealing with the employees, اللي هم هو first line managers. Okay, so this technical expertise is needed mostly by first line managers and least critically needed by top level managers. Okay, so this is as for technical expertise. Also, there are some conceptual skills that are needed. Here we need the ability to think in a more abstract frame. Okay, you need to think at how the parts of this organization fits together as a whole. Okay, so here you're thinking in a more abstract term to see how parts of the organization, how all of those people, how these departments, these employees, workers fit together to form this whole organization. Such kind of abstract type of thinking is needed by top level managers. This is very conceptual skill that is needed by higher management. Actually, they also evaluate where the company will be in the future, because we said that higher management or top management, they think about the strategic management, that is the long-term planning of the company. Okay, so they make evaluation and set up planning for the long term for the future of the company and where the company will be in the future. Okay, you have to be able to think in a very creative manner. Okay, such kind of conceptual and abstract type of thinking is needed by high management. Okay, so that because you're setting the future of the company, so you do need such kind of conceptual skills by top management. Then they moved on and they talk about the different types of management that are involved, or different types of managers that we see in real life. Financial managers are very important managers. Why? Because they are the ones who obtain the necessary funding. They are responsible for finding out the funding that is necessary to make the organization a success. Not just at the short term, but also at the long term as well. So we have to make sure that we have the necessary funding that is necessary for the business to obtain and reach and accomplish its objectives in the short term as well as on the long term. Okay, this is the responsibility of financial manager. We have other examples. We have operational managers and production manager, human resource managers, marketing managers, information IT manager, administrative managers, and so on. So we do have several types of managers, and each manager role is very important to the success of the business. Another type of skill that is necessary for managers is analytical skills. Basically, here it's the ability to identify relevant issues and recognize how important these issues are and understand the relationship between these issues. Why? So that you can find out what causes certain things to happen, what causes certain situations to happen. If something goes wrong, for example, you need to underline any kind of causes, why it's happening. So you need some skills that makes you break things into parts. You need to analyze things to find out why things goes as it is. Most important to the success of top managers and management. Okay, so if anything goes wrong in an organization, some ethical or unethical issues that might happen, okay, you need analytical skills to break things into smaller parts to see what causes, what is the reason that leads to such unethical issues to happen. Okay, so you do need these analytical skills to resolve any kind of ethical issues if happens. Also, another important skill that is needed for managers is human resources, often human relations skills. Here, you need to have the ability to deal with people, relationships, inside and outside the organization or the business. Inside the business, you're dealing with your workers, with your managers, high management, first line managers, and so on. So you should have good communications and good human relation skills. Also, you're dealing with outsiders outside your company, and like suppliers, customers, the government, and other people, other stakeholders. You should be empowered actually by these human relation skills. And believe it or not, those people who can relate and communicate well and are able to understand the needs and the wants of others and show a true appreciation for others are more successful people. It is very important for at all levels of the organizations, whether you are a government organization or into your private sector or whatever. You need these human relation skills, very important for the success of the business. Actually, you can gain a competitive edge over your competitors if you have your people and your employees at all levels having such kind of human relation skills. If they can communicate well and understand the needs and really can figure out how they can help others and so on, you will be a successful business. Especially if you are dealing in the service sector, if you are a bank or a hospital or a restaurant or you are an airline or other kind of service sector, you have to have these skills. If you lack these skills, you need to know that you are not a successful business. You have to have it. This is as for human relation skills. Let's look at leadership and what we mean by leadership. We said that it's very important for managers to be leaders. Leaders mean that they are having the ability to influence employees to work toward achieving the organizational objectives and goals. This is basically what leadership is all about. You have to be able as a manager to motivate and influence your employees to reach the organizational objectives or contribute toward achieving organizational objectives. To be a successful leader, there should be certain requirements. So what are these requirements? Number one, you have to be able to communicate objectives and expectations to your employees. Tell them exactly what is expected from them. What are the objectives and the goals of the organization? You should have some sort of good and effective interpersonal relationship with them. Also, you have to gain the respect and trust of the stakeholders. Very important. You should have some sort of good culture of ethics and good culture of respect within the organization and the stakeholder that you are dealing with. You have to build good trust and good respect. You have to develop some good and shared values. Ethical values. Remember in one of the chapters we discussed that the trend now is toward accomplishing or reaching or building up a good ethical cultural environment. This is what we want. It should be part of your culture, and we develop shared values within people who are working together under one umbrella and under one organization. You have to acquire and share knowledge. It is your responsibility to go and find out and learn and get knowledge and collect information and share it with the others. Very important. You do not keep it for yourself. You have to share that knowledge with the other people within the organization. Also, responsibility is to empower employees to make decisions, and we will see later in the last slide of this chapter what we mean by empowerment. Empowerment means involvement of your employees. Let them get involved in the decision-making process. Make them feel that they are part of this organization. Ask them for ideas, ask them for solutions. This is how you empower them. Be a role model for appropriate behavior. By showing appropriate and good behaviors, you are a role model to them. Using good ethics, good behaviors, good standards, you're becoming a role model. This is how you become a good leader. Provide rewards and take corrective actions to achieve goals. Very important that you set up a system of rewards to your company and your organizations. For those who are doing good, you have to appreciate their work, recognize their work, give them incentives, give them reward. This is how you motivate your people. If anything goes wrong, we should have some sort of corrective actions to achieve the goals of the organization. So you have to be able and you have to be ready for all of these issues to be a successful leader. We need to know that we do have different types of leadership or different styles of leadership. Here we have the first type, which is, we call it the autocratic type of leaders. So what is autocratic leaders? Basically, the autocratic type of leaders, those are leaders who make decisions themselves. Then they go and tell employees what must be done and how they can do it. This is, we call it a autocratic type of leaders. They give you an example in the book for an autocratic leader, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart is an American businesswoman. She's a media person. She's a writer. She's a publisher. She's published a lot of books and articles and she's also involved in broadcasting. She has a lot of TV shows and so on. She works in retailing, in merchandising, in e-commerce. She wrote some books. She has a magazine as well. She's a pioneer in this area. She's a pioneer. Although she's a pioneer, but she's an autocratic leader. She makes all the decisions herself, and then she involves her employees. This is the first type or style of leadership. The second type is something we call it democratic leaders. Democratic leaders are leaders who involve employees in the decision-making process. And also in the book, they give you an example of somebody called, I believe, Herb Kelleher, co-founder of Southwest Airlines. He's a democratic leader, good example of democratic leaders. So those people who are democratic leaders, they are the ones who involve the employees in the decision-making process. The third type is a style that is called free-rein leaders. What is free-rein leaders? Basically, the free-rein leaders, those are the leaders who set up the objectives and set up goals, and they do not intervene. They do not interfere with the employees' work. They set the performance standards, as I said, and also goals and objectives, and then allow the employees to let them go, find your way to go and perform and do your work. So they let the employee work without much interference, setting performance standards and telling employees exactly to find their way on how to meet these objectives and how to meet these standards. This is something we call it a free rein type of leadership. In the book, they give you an example of Warren Buffett. He's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He exhibits a free rein leadership among the managers. Okay, so this is just an example of free rein leaders. Okay, these are different styles of leadership. Another type of leadership style, we call it the authentic type of leaders, or authentic type of leadership. This is a bit different from the other three types that we just mentioned, the three different styles that we just mentioned a while ago, because it's not exclusive. And believe it or not, the democratic and the free rein leaders, the last two styles that we mentioned a while ago, they could be qualified to become authentic leaders. But what characterizes those authentic leaders? Authentic leaders are more passionate about their goals and mission statement of the company. They display corporate values in the workplace. They form long-term relationships with the stakeholders, so they really care about the relationship with the stakeholders. They spend a lot of time in working toward achieving the objectives. They have good mission statement. They set up good objectives for the company. They display a lot of good values in the workplace. Okay, this is basically we call them the authentic type of leadership. They give you example of former CEO of Ford company. اسمه Alan Mulally. Alan Mulally is the frequently cited as the authentic leader, as an example of an authentic leader. Also in the book, they give you an example of Kim Jordan of New Belgian Brewing. He's an authentic leader as well. Okay, as this person who the co-founder of the company, Kim Jordan, she helped to develop the firm's core values and has ensured that everything in New Belgium company does align with these values. So they really care about values and setting up a good working environment and good workplace and so on. This is we call it the authentic leadership. Last but not least, in this chapter, we'll be looking at employee empowerment, and we just mentioned one of the characteristics of good leadership is that you empower your employees. When employees are providing with the ability to take on responsibilities and make decisions about their jobs, we call it empowerment. So just like when we say that the free rein leaders, they set up standards and they give them goals and objectives and let them go find their ways in trying to accomplishing that objective. This is how you empower your employees. It is very important that you create a participative corporate culture where all employees can participate in the decision-making process. So how you do so? You do so by encouraging your employees to participate by giving ideas by giving decisions, by giving solutions, ideas for new products and services. Okay, so this kind of participative corporate culture is very helpful and very beneficial, because employees will feel that they are taking an active role in the firm's success. They will feel that they participated in the success of the organization. If the business is making a lot of profits and is being so successful and is gaining a lot of competitive edge, this will make the employees that they had hand in this success. Leaders in the organization must adapt systems that support employees' ability to provide input and feedback on the company. You as a leader, you have to come up with like a formula, or come up with a system, okay, that will support employees' ability in coming up with, becoming more participative, in coming up with ideas, and in listening to them, getting their feedback, getting their input, and actually get them involved in the overall operation and process of the company. Managers need to be trained. We have to give them the appropriate training on how they can actually empower employees to make decisions, especially if they're handling or some sort of challenging situation or ambiguous situations, some areas that like gray areas. So you should also train your managers on exactly how they can empower employees and how they get them involved and how they can actually build a more participative corporate culture, because it's going to be at the end of the day very beneficial to the employees themselves and to the company in whole. This basically ends this chapter number 6, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening and for your time.